For around the last 250 years, humanity has been drastically changing the ecosystem of the Earth, all unintentionally. From the very first steam-powered train to factories to building widespread concrete infrastructure, humans have been defacing the planet for their own prosperity, comfort, and convenience. This is what is known as geoengineering, albeit unintentional. These changes that we've made have pushed our ecosystem to the brink of drastic and cataclysmic shift. Our actions have been warming the planet, and will continue to warm the planet even if we stopped now. It's a runaway effect that isn't easy and may be impossible to stop, at least through passive means. I want to talk mostly about the human aspect of this problem, how we've gotten ourselves here, why we're refusing to stop, and why we won't do anything extra to reverse it. But before that, we need to go over a few basic sciencey things. First, how does light work? Well, light or electromagnetic radiation comes in many different forms or energies, varying from very long wavelengths, radio waves, to very short wavelengths, gamma rays. Right smack dab in the middle of these variations is what we can see, visible light, varying from red to violet. Pretty much everything gives off some form of heat. This heat is infrared light that is wavelengths too long for us to see. As something gets warmer, the wavelengths get shorter and shorter until you hit the visible light band. That's why when you heat something up ridiculously hot, it starts to glow red and goes through all the colors to blue and violet. That's light being emitted. Our sun emits lots and lots of light, many different kinds, but for our purposes we're going to focus on the visible light it emits. Now when visible light hits something, that thing gets hotter. It gains energy. And for the most part, it will re-emit that energy as infrared, as just heat. That heat rises up through the atmosphere and eventually flows out into space. Except there's something that can stop it. Carbon dioxide, CO2. When heat radiates up and hits carbon dioxide, it gets reflected back down. This largely wouldn't be a problem if there was a normal, safe, and steady amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. But due to the last 250 years of industrialization and burning of fossil fuels, there is far more CO2 in the atmosphere, with more being pumped into it every day. CO2 is a greenhouse gas. It lets visible light in, but doesn't let heat escape. Glass does the same thing. That's why greenhouses are so warm. That's why Earth is getting warmer. But I know what some older people may be saying. It got hot this time of year when I was a kid. It ain't getting no warmer. But let me ask you this. When you were a kid, did you have access to the dataset of temperature readings from all across the globe? No, you didn't. Problems that face all of humanity are often not easily visible to a single human. It's only with the advent of mass communication across the globe that's enabled us to take in the very distant and all-encompassing. There were not any world wars prior to telegraphs and telephones. Being a partner to humanity means foregoing pride and individualism in matters that affect everyone. You don't know everything because you aren't everywhere and you aren't everyone. Why haven't we stopped burning fossil fuels? Because we're largely dependent on them. We could use greener solutions, but those take time to develop and may not be able to replace fossil fuels efficiency. We could use nuclear power plants, but the perceived dangers outweigh the benefits. Notice how I said perceived, though, because even with the few nuclear accidents we've had, magnitudes more have been killed from burning coal. An estimated 8.7 million people have died because of the pollution from fossil fuels, while 47 have died from nuclear accidents. I'm no mathematician.
I don't know. I never counted. I am not really a math guy, you know?
But that seems like a fairly large discrepancy. Nuclear accidents pose a threat, yes. A controllable, safeguarded, and protected threat. Burning fossil fuels will get no less dangerous, pollutive, and temporally erosive. But the alternatives show promise and is our way of showing ourselves that we actually give a shit about ourselves. But the problem with this is that it's not about you or I caring about the world. It's about those with power caring. The people that make the decisions, the people that run the fossil fuel industry, the energy industry. There is an ungodly amount of money in these industries, so of course those who stake a claim in them don't want them to go away, regardless of the consequences of their existence and continued activity. The future is coming. A time where our actions now have significant impact may not be one all of us get to see, but just because you don't see it doesn't mean you can't act now for the future you would want to see, the future you'd want your children, grandchildren to see. There is hope, but only if we act now. Geoengineering is what we've been doing all along. We've just been doing it without realizing it. We now have the opportunity to do it in the right direction intentionally. But it's a sticky situation, because it's a whole different beast to change the composition of the atmosphere on purpose. We could create machines that capture carbon dioxide from the air and store it somewhere else. We could fertilize the oceans, placing nutrients in select locations to draw CO2 from the atmosphere. We could reflect some of the sun's light back into space by whitening clouds or placing reflectors in orbit. If we did this, it would feel like you're playing God. The problem is we've already been doing just that, except we've been a God that's far from omnipotent and is unaware of their power or their power's consequence. Would a God blessed with foresight, empathy, and a drive for a better future opt to use their power for the betterment of all creation, or to just not be a God at all? Humans are not gods. Humanity in its collective is not a god, but under the assumption that there is no higher ruling power above humanity's clumsy missteps, why should humanity take no further steps at all, and not instead take steps to fix their mistakes? It is hard to feel empathy for something when it does not exist yet. It's hard to feel empathy for someone knowing you will never ever meet them. Though it will be harder for a descendant of yours with scorched skin and blistered feet sheltered from a hurricane magnitude stronger than the ones we know to feel empathy for the generation that turned Earth into a hellscape no devil would have had the audacity to have created. This is not on you, though. It's not on any of us. We're just people. We're just following the directive. You wouldn't blame a herd of sheep for being herded off a cliff. It's up to those with power, the wolf, the herder, the corporations, and governments. The idea that you can just blame the consumer, offset the guilt and responsibility onto those who only ever participated, is vile. It's the perpetrators, the industrial complex, the governments, the corporations. Give us our plastic straws back and save the fucking planet yourselves. Thanks for watching.